Hi everybody, this is Bonnie with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I have something really special. For those of you who've ever been hesitant to dig in to learn some of these crochet cables that I teach on my channel, I'm calling this my first cabled throw. It is a throw that uses front and back post stitches. We use front post and back post, and we also use the wattle stitch, and we use the one cable that we focus on for this project is called the 4-post cable. It's an easy cable. It's a really good way to get introduced to some of these cabling systems, and I think you'll find it very accessible. So let me tell you a little bit about the yarn that I used. I used extra chunky Bernat Blanket Yarn. It makes for a beautiful cushy throw, and this particular throw I sized it to be on the larger side, so it's actually approximately 53 inches wide by about 64 inches long. That's a big throw. It's a very cushy throw, and I know that there are sometimes issues using this yarn for some of you out there. I know it's kind of a love-hate relationship. Some of you absolutely love this yarn and some absolutely hate this yarn. I understand both sides. I absolutely love the product, but sometimes that can be rough on your hands. Well, the good news is you can use any size yarn to make this throw. In fact, I sized this way down to DK weight yarn. I use the paint box yarns from Lovecrafts. It's called Simply DK, which is 100% acrylic, very economical. And I made this beautiful baby blanket using basically the same pattern. And I just showed this to you. That way, if you wanted to try working this pattern with yarn from your stash, maybe worsted weight yarn that you've already got available, feel free to do that. You'll just have some stripes in your work, and I think that would be excellent. You can really be creative with that. Well, let me go ahead and show you what you're going to need. For this project, I'm going to be using Yarnspirations Bernat Blanket Yarn. Each of these balls is 10.5 ounces or 300 grams. That's a total of 220 yards. This is 100% polyester. And as you can see, this is a size number 6, which is super bulky. The number of skeins of this yarn that you will need will be listed right across the bottom of your screen. And just for the record, I'm using the Smokey Green color of this particular yarn. I'll be using a size N or 15 or 10.00 millimeter crochet hook. And as always, I'm recommending that you have a pair of sharp scissors and a yarn needle handy, which is wonderful for hiding the loose strands. To begin, we're going to start with a slip knot. And just for the record, this yarn being so big and bulky, and with the use of the large crochet hook, I don't recommend that you spend hours on end working on this project. I recommend that you take breaks often just to give your hands a rest. Okay? After that slip knot, we are going to chain 112 chains. After crocheting those 112 chains, we're ready to start row 1. For row 1, we're going to start in the 4th chain from the hook. Because of this yarn being so fuzzy, it may be a little tricky to see the chains, but I definitely encourage you to rely on the nerve endings in your thumb and your fingers to do this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 4th chain from the hook, and that's where we work our first double crochet. The next chain is right here, so go ahead and double crochet in that chain and in each chain all the way across. You should have a total of 109 double crochets at the end of this row, and that's not including the chain at the beginning. Okay, so 109 double crochets. Go ahead and finish row 1. So after completing row 1, I have verified that I do have 109 stitches, and I highly recommend that you double check to make sure that you have that amount as well before going forward. Now for row number 2, this is where we're going to begin the ribbing. And the ribbing is made by working a series of front and back post double crochets. And I'm going to go very slowly so that you can understand these in the event that you've never done these before. We're going to start row 2 with a chain 2. We're going to skip the first stitch, and we're going to work a front post double crochet in the next stitch. And we do it like this. It's just like a double crochet with the exception we're going to wrap the hook. We are not going to work into the top loops that we normally would. Instead, we take the crochet hook and we work it around the stitch like we're going to give it a belt. And then we just complete the stitch as normal. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 more stitches. And that is a front post double crochet. For the back post double crochet, which we're going to follow this with, we wrap the hook like we would for a double crochet, except in this case we're coming in from the back side and the hook works around the stitch, and then we go out the back side. Okay, wrap the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 more. And that completes a back post. So I'm going to work this with you for a little bit. So we're just going to alternate front and back post double crochets. So wrap the hook, coming in the front side, wrap the hook around the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, you're completing a double crochet, but just in a different manner. Okay, for a back post, come in the back door, go around and out the side door, and pull up a loop, a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'll do this a couple more times with you. Wrap the hook, going in the front. And these are stitches that really depend a lot on nerve endings in your hands. Your hands can tell you a lot about whether you're doing this correctly or not. So the next stitch is a back post. We come in the back door to complete this one, and just like that. So what we're going to do is work front and back post all the way across the row, and I'll show you how this row ends. If you still need stitch support on this, just back the video up about a minute or 2 and you can re-watch this section. Okay. At the end of the row, after working that back post double crochet, we're going to work a half double crochet into that chain 3 space, which we call it a turning chain, even though we hadn't turned yet when we formed it. So half double crochet in that last stitch. And now we're ready for row number 3. For row number 3, we're going to chain 2, and just like row 2, we're going to skip that first stitch, and we're going to start by working a front post double crochet in that first stitch, and then a back post double crochet in that next stitch. Okay, front post double crochet followed by a back post double crochet. Let's go ahead and pause a minute. So the idea is you're continuing these lines just like so. If you see the stitches in the front, you work a front post, and if the stitch is in the back, we're going to work a back post. So thereby forming these ribbed sections. So go ahead and finish row number 3. At the end of row 3, we end with a half double into that turning chain, just like we did at the end of row 2. Let's go ahead and turn and see what we have. So now for the next 2 rows, we're going to work the same as we just did with row number 3. So go ahead and work rows 4 and 5. This is what you should have after completing 5 rows. Also, for the record, the even number rows will have the front side facing. Going forward with the next row, which is going to be row 6, you'll be able to see the difference. Up until now, there really hasn't been a difference between the front side and the back side. Okay, so for row number 6, we're going to chain 2, and we are going to work the ribbing stitch just like we've been doing for the first 10 stitches. In the written pattern, it will say front post double crochet and then back post double crochet in parentheses, and to do that a total of 5 times. It's just a different way of expressing the same thing that we are going to be doing. We're going to skip that first stitch. We're going to work a front post double crochet, again keeping these lines nice and straight, and then a back post double crochet. And we are going to, again, work this 5 times over a total of 10 stitches. So let me give you a little bit of explanation. These stitches that we just worked are going to be a frame for the rest of this row. So this is just going to continue upwards, and it is going to frame the rest of the work that we're going to do. Okay, after this, we're going to start in the next stitch, and we're going to work a wattle stitch, spelled W-A-T-T-L-E stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through the top loops. We work a single crochet, a chain 1, and then a double crochet. Grab my yarn here. So this wattle stitch is going to help feature some of the other stitches that we're going to work on. It's a background stitch, but I think it's a very nice, flexible background stitch. Okay, so now after this, we are going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2. And this is for the wattle stitch to lie nice and comfortable, and it helps to fill that space. So we've skipped these 2 stitches. Now to begin the 4 post cable, we need to skip 2 more stitches. 1, 2 more. Now in the next stitch, which is right here, we are going to begin our 4 post cable, and we're going to start by wrapping our hook 2 times with the for the treble crochet, which is going to be a front post treble crochet, and then we wrap our hook around that stitch just the way we did the double crochets. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now before we go further, let me just show you the stitches that were skipped, and we are going to work in a couple of these in just a minute, but just for clarity, you skip 2 stitches for the wattle stitch and then 2 more stitches to work the front post trebles of the 4 post cable. Now we're going to do that again in the next stitch. So we're going to work 2 of these. This is a front post treble. It's a treble crochet worked just like you normally would, except we work it as a front post. Now, working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to go back to the last 2 stitches that we skipped. Remember, we skipped these 2 for the wattle stitch, kind of to space it, but then we skipped this stitch and this stitch. We're going to go back to the 3rd stitch that we skipped, and we're going to work a front post treble there. Just like that. And then we're going to do it in the next stitch as well. That's the 4th stitch that we skipped. We work a front post treble. Okay, and we have completed our first cable crossing. Of course, it doesn't look much like a cable yet, but once we do a few more rounds, it will. Okay, after we complete that, it's time for us to work another wattle stitch. So we go to the next stitch, Now before we go to the next stitch, we need to find the last stitch that we worked was here. So the next stitch we're going to work is right beside that. And we're going to work another wattle stitch. Single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. All right. Then we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then now in the next stitch, which is right here, we're going to work a front post double crochet. So after that front post, we're going to work 2 more front post double crochets, 1 in each of the next stitches. So that's 2 and 1 more. 3. And this is pretty much the repeat that we are going to work across the row. So now we're ready to work this repeat across the row. And what we're going to be working is the wattle stitch, skip 2 stitches. We're going to work the 4-post cable, and then we're going to work another wattle stitch, skip 2 stitches, and then 3 front post double crochets. So let me work the next one with you. We work a wattle stitch, which again is a single crochet, chain 1, and then a double crochet. We're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and now we're going to work another 4-post cable. Okay, so we skip these 2 for the wattle stitch, and then 2 more for the cable, and then we start in this stitch with that front post treble crochet, and then we work another front post treble crochet. And just to let you know, it doesn't matter whether you're working these in a front post or a back post from the last row with the ribbing, because we're not maintaining the ribbing as the main stitch any longer. Okay, so now we're going to go back to that 3rd stitch that was skipped, 1, 2, 3. That's the 3rd stitch, and we're going to work a front post treble. Notice that I'm working in front of those last 2 trebles, and then the next stitch is here. Now this is where you're going to need to use the nerve endings in your fingers and your thumb to help you find these stitches. But once you learn what that feels like, it's almost easier, in my personal opinion, crocheting with post stitches, because I can do this pretty much in the dark because my hands do give me a lot of information. Of course, to begin, you need to rely more on visual. Okay, after that 4-post cable, we go to the next stitch, which is right here, and we work into the top loops of that stitch. We work a wattle stitch, which again is a single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Okay, skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then we're going to front post double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So also when you work this row, just keeping in mind when you're working the double crochets and when you're working the trebles. And just to help you with that, let me explain another thing. Again, I'm being very slow and very deliberate, assuming that for some of you, this is going to be your first ever cable project. Whenever you're crossing the cables, I generally use front post treble crochets. Almost all of those situations in many of my different designs. I use double front post double crochets or back post double crochets basically for everything else. So you only are going to be using the trebles when you're actually crossing the cables. I know I'm repeating myself, but I just want to be really clear about that. All right, so after this, we're going to find the next stitch. Now be careful. This stitch, which is the tops are right here, has already been used, so make sure you go for the next stitch. It'd be very easy to use a stitch more than once, and then that's going to throw your stitch count off. So we work the single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, worked into that same space, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then skip 2 more, 1, 2, because the next stitch, which is here, we're going to work another front or 4-post cable, and that is a front post treble there, and in the next one. Now working in front of those 2 stitches, we go back to the, okay, let's be deliberate here. This is the first stitch we skip, second stitch, that's for the wattle stitch, and the third stitch is right here, and that's the stitch we're going to use. And then the one right next to it, which is right here. And then we follow this with a wattle stitch in that next stitch. And this is what you're going to work a total of 6 times across the row. Okay? And then again, we're skipping the next 2 stitches, which are here and here. And then we work those 3 front post double crochets again. And let's go ahead, I'm going to pause so that we can look at what we have. Okay, so at the beginning of this row, which is row 6, we have those first 10 stitches, which were the front and back post ribbed area that's going to be the frame for our project, for our blanket. We have a wattle stitch, then we have those skip stitches. We have the 4-post cable, a wattle stitch, 3 front post double crochets, a wattle stitch, 4-post cable, a wattle stitch, 3 front post, a wattle stitch, and then again and again, 4-post cable, a wattle stitch, 3-post cable, etc. So if you're following the written pattern, you are going to be repeating the following: the 3 front post double crochets, the wattle stitch, the 4-post cable, and then the wattle stitch. So we're just going to continue to complete or to repeat that across the row until you have a total of 7 4-post cables. Remember now, the first 4-post cable was not part of the repeat that I'm talking about. So you're actually going to repeat this a total of 6 times more from this point to here. So 6 times more. That will leave you 10 stitches yet unworked, and I'll rejoin you at that point. Okay, I've worked all the way across, and after I skip these next 2 stitches, I'm going to have a total of 10 stitches left, and I'm not including the turning chain on this. So this is where we're going to return to our ribbing. So we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then we're going to work front post double crochet followed by back post double crochet, and again over those last 10 stitches. So I'll go ahead and work those, and then I will show you the half double crochet. Okay, I've worked the last 10 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that leaves only the turning chain where we work our half double crochet. So let's take a pause and look at what we've done. So I'm going to start with the beginning of the row. So I'm going to go ahead and count these cables with you just so that you understand how this has come together. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, and there should be 6 sets of the 3 double crochets, and there should be, let's see, 7. Let's count the wattle stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 wattle stitches. All right, so that is row 6. Very important foundational row. Now we're ready to move on, and I can promise you without a doubt, if you've made it this far, that the remaining repeats or the remaining rows are going to be a bit easier because you're just going to be working over what's already been established. And if this didn't come out the way you expected it to, you may want to double check to make sure that you skipped the correct number of stitches as you work the wattle stitches and the cables and so forth. It's worth getting it right before going on to row number 7. Now row 7 is going to have the back side facing, as will all odd numbered rows from this point forward. Let's go ahead and chain 2. And you should be used to what we're going to do for the first 10 stitches. We're going to skip that first stitch and we're just going to work front post, double crochet, and back post, double crochet over those first 10 stitches. So go ahead and work those. After working those first 10 front and back post stitches, which form the ribbing, that's going to just, again, gradually grow upward. Now we're going to work the wattle stitch. And the wattle stitch is always worked in that chain 1 space, which is actually quite a large space with this large yarn and hook. So we skip any stitches, which happens to be a double crochet. That's not going to be mentioned in the written pattern. The pattern is just going to say, do this in the next chain 1 space, which is right in the center of that wattle stitch. And we do another wattle stitch, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and after that we're going to work over the cable. Now the cable was crossed on that front side, so what we're going to do is we're going to work 4 back post double crochets. 1, again using your fingers to help you guide that hook, and here's the 3rd stitch right here, and the last one. Do make sure that you have 4 back post double crochets worked over each of the 4 post cables. Okay, now we go to the next wattle stitch and we work a wattle stitch in that chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Now we're going to skip the rest of the wattle stitch, which is the single crochet. Again, that's not going to be specified in the pattern because you're just going to be told to go to the next 3 stitches, which are going to be back post double crochet. So 3 back post double crochets over those next 3 stitches. Then we go to the next chain 1 space of the next wattle space, or wattle stitch, which is right here, and we work a wattle stitch. So I'm hoping, as we've established this in that foundational row of row 6, that the rest of this will be much easier to understand, and you're not going to have to be married to this video throughout this project. Once you learn these 2 rows, then you are free to move about the cabin, as they say. Okay, so now we come to another 4 post cable, and again, back post double crochets over the next 4 stitches. And that last one. Now we go to the next wattle stitch, which is right here, and we work another wattle stitch, single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. And I'll do the next. Now we go to the next 3 stitches and we work those 3 back post double crochets. And again, just as another reminder, if you need to take a break, if your hands are starting to feel even the littlest bit tired, the least bit tired, take a break, okay? All right, so this is what it looks like from the back, which is nothing terribly special, but when you flip to look at the front side, you can see how this cable has grown. And these 3 stitches together, these 3 post stitches, will continue to grow and be kind of like a separator or a barrier in between these cables. And it will just kind of make it kind of nice and symmetrical. All right, so what I'm going to have you do is just continue to work this all the way across, making sure that you know where you are, whether you are working behind the 4 post cable, which would give you those 4 back post double crochets, of course wattle stitches in between, and then you have 3 back post double crochets, wattle stitch, 4 back post double crochets, wattle stitch, 3 back post double crochets, wattle stitch, and we're going to work this across. And the last thing that you will work before that last wattle stitch will be that 4 post cable, wattle stitch. And then I'm just going to go ahead and give you these directions. After that, we're going to work the ribbing, front post, back post. We always are going to start with a front post on this, front post, back post, etc. over those last 10 stitches, and a half double in the turning chain. So go ahead and finish row number 7. At the end of row 7, we work a half double crochet worked into the turning chain. So let's go ahead and turn and look at what you should have after completing 7 rows. Okay. Now for row number 8, we start the same way with the chain 2 and the first 10 stitches. We first skip that first stitch, and the first 10 stitches are going to be the front post double crochet followed by a back post double crochet. So go ahead and work those first 10 stitches. After working those first 10 stitches, which are the ribbing, we come to the first wattle stitch, and working in that chain 1 space, we work another wattle stitch, which is the single crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now we're going to look at the cable. So this is the 4 post cable, and so what we're going to do is prepare for a treble crochet or front post treble. Skip the first 2 stitches of this cable, and then the next 2 we're going to work front post treble crochets. So that's 1 and 2. Working in front of those stitches, we're going to work a front post treble here and here. The first stitch that you skipped, and then the second stitch. Again, using those nerve endings in your fingers and thumb to help you find your way. After that, we work another wattle stitch in the chain 1 space. Okay, after that, we're going to work 3 front post double crochets. And again, we work another wattle stitch. So let's stop and look at what we've done. The 4 post cable, wattle stitch, and then the 3 post stitches. So just so that you see it again, I'm going to go ahead and work another 4 post cable. We skip those next 2 stitches, and just to show you, it's coming from the wattle stitch here, so we skip the first 2 stitches of that cable. Front post treble in the next 2 stitches, and working in front of those last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble here and then here. That's the first front post treble, and the next one is right here. And then after that, we work another wattle stitch. So let's go ahead and pause, and let me show you what you're going to be repeating. And if you're reading the written pattern will bring you through the ribbing, or those first 10 stitches, the wattle stitch, and the cable, and then the written part that's again inside the brackets. So whenever you see something inside the brackets, you want to repeat that. And it'll tell you outside the second bracket how many times to repeat that. So you have the wattle stitch worked in that chain 1 space, 3 front post double crochets, another wattle stitch, and then another crossing of the 4 post cable, and then another wattle stitch. So these elements, okay, let's start with this one. So when you repeat, you're going to repeat this, 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 and this all the way across, and you're going to repeat that on this side, I should say. You're going to repeat that a total of 6 times, just like you did back here on row number 6. So in a way, in a strong way, this is a repeat of row 6, but it does look different because you're not skipping stitches like you are on the foundation row. Instead, you are working directly into the wattle stitches, which I think you're going to find to be much more convenient and easier to accomplish. Okay, so go ahead and work that all the way across. And when you get to the end of the row, you will have, you will end with a wattle stitch. That's after this 4 post cable crossing. And then you'll have, starting with the front post, always front post, back post, etc. for those last 10 stitches, and then a half double worked into the chain 2 turning chain. Okay, so after you complete this again is row number 8. What I'm going to have you do is go back to row number 7, which is with the back side facing, and that's where we work 4 back post double crochets over the 4 post cable, and where you have the 3 back post, or the 3 post stitches, you just work 3 back post double crochets, and you're going to work wattle stitches where the wattle stitches are. And when you get to the ribbing, you always go over those front, back, etc., and then ending with a half double. Now, if you look across the bottom of the screen, you'll see how many rows I worked to complete this throw, or at least this section of it, before returning back to the ribbed part, which is what we will be ending with. So if you look across the bottom of the screen, it'll tell you how many times to repeat rows 7, which is with the back side facing, and then rows 8, which is the crossing of the cables. After repeating certain number, you'll see that you will be ending with a repeat of row 7, which is with the back side facing. If you need stitch support and you want to watch me stitch by stitch explain these 2 rows again, please look across the bottom of the screen again, and I will put a time mark where you can go back and re-watch what I've already instructed. So go ahead and work this. Now, if you don't want to work the exact number of rows given, if you want this to be longer, feel free to make this longer. Of course, you'll need more yarn. If you want this to be shorter, that's your prerogative. You can make this shorter. Just remember that there's going to be a distance of about 5 inches remaining to finish out the blanket if you're using the blanket yarn. All right, I'm to the point where I'm going to be transitioning to the ribbing on this next row, and we're going to have to work a row that's going to change this up for us. So, but let me give you some stats on this. As is, I have worked a total of 72 rows so far. I am now going to be starting my 9th ball of yarn, and I'm going to end this a little bit early so that I don't use every inch of my yarn, just to help account for, you know, differences in crochet styles amongst you crocheters out there. The dimensions of this as it sits is now 53 inches wide. These are approximate numbers. So 53 inches wide and just shy of about 60 inches long. Once I work this next row, it's going to be 60 inches. And after that, we're going to add about 3.5 to 4 inches on top of that. So we're going to end up with a throw that's approximately 64 inches long. So if you want this to be longer than that, that's a considerably large blanket. But if you want to add, you can just continue adding. But what we're going to do is we're going to start the transition row. This is to transition to the ribbing. We're going to start this with the back side facing. We're going to work a chain 2, and then we work the ribbing on these 10 stitches. So I'll go ahead and work those. So now that I've completed those first 10 front and back post stitches for the ribbing, this is how we're going to change the wattle stitches. So every time you see the wattle stitch, this is what you're going to do on this row. We're going to skip that double crochet. We're going to work 2 double crochets into that chain 1 space and 1 into the single crochet. So that's pretty much the main thing that you're going to do differently, is working these wattle stitches. We're transforming the wattle stitch into 3 stitches. Again, 2 double crochets in the chain 1 space and 1 in the single crochet. When we work over the 4-post cable, we're just going to work 4 back post double crochets, just like we've normally done all along. And after that, we're going to be set up to end with our ribbed rows. Okay, so let me go ahead and do this one more time. Then we come to another wattle stitch, skip that double crochet, 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, and 1 in the single crochet, working through both loops. So we're going to work that all the way across. When you get to the other side with the ribbing, you just continue on with the ribbing as you normally would with the front and back post stitches, and we work a half double in the chain, turning chain at the end of the row. So go ahead and finish this. This is row 73. So and this is what you should have after completing 73 rows. Before working row 74, I would double check to make sure that you converted each of these wattle stitches to 3 double crochets. Why do I say that? Would I have made that mistake? Maybe. So if you want to save yourself some ripping out, go ahead and double check that. So for row 74, we're going to start with the chain 2, and we're basically going to work front post double crochets followed by a back post double crochet, and we're going to work that all the way across, and we're going to incorporate the wattle stitches in, and I'll work a portion of this and I will show you how this is done. Okay, So after working those 10 front and back post double crochets, we come to the 3 double crochets and we just continue on. So we worked a back post the last time. We're going to work a front post, followed by a back post, and then a front post. And we're going to work this all the way, and we come to the 4 post cable again. The next thing we do is work a back post. We just keep in the same pattern, followed by a front post. And if you have the same number of stitches, if you did this correctly, you should this should end up even with the ribbing on the other side. Okay. Okay, so now we come to another wattle stitch, and it's time for a back post, front post, and then a back post. And now we have those 3 front post stitches, and it's time for a front post. Again, just because the stitch before that was a back post. So we have front post, back post. Well, let's pull the yarn through, back post, and then a front post. And then again, back post, front post, and then a back post. So I'm going to go ahead and work this all the way across this row. I just wanted to show you that at the end of this row, this was after working those 3 wattle stitches, or the DCs, double crochets that were in the wattle stitches. And then I start with the front post and then the back post. So I just wanted to show you that mathematically this does work out after working this all the way across, and you should have the same exact number of stitches we started with. And so what I'm going to do with row 74 is I'm going to finish this in the normal way with the front and back posts, and then a half double in the turning chain, just the way we've been doing over these last 74 rows. Now to finish this throw, this would be rows 75, 76, and 77. We are simply going to work the ribbing just like we did with row 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're just going to work front post over the front post, back post over the back post as they present themselves on the various rows, just to maintain this beautiful ribbing. And let me show you, this is the beginning. So we're going to continue this until the ribbed section looks like this. So go ahead and complete the next 3 rows, and then after that we just fasten off with a chain and then hide your loose ends. Well, I hope you enjoyed making my first cabled throw with me today. If you did, I would so love to hear from you. Please feel free to comment in the comment section below. And for those of you who don't know, I have a free newsletter that I send out about bi-weekly. And if you're interested in that, you can look in the video description and sign up for that today. God bless. Bye-bye.